Madam Speaker, I have the honor this morning to present to the National Assembly the budget proposals for the financial year 2018-2019. Madam Speaker, as this is the last financial statement delivered to this House under the leadership of His Excellency the President, Lieutenant General Dr. Sratsa Khamaye Nkhama, I would like to take a few moments to reflect on some of the achievements in the economic development space under his stewardship. Under His Excellency's leadership, Botswana was among the countries which managed to withstand the impact of the 2008-2009 global economic and financial crisis. By maintaining an expansionary fiscal policy stance, the government was able to save jobs, both within the public service and the private sector, while investing in critical economic and social infrastructure such as water, energy, roads, schools, and health facilities. To ensure fiscal sustainability, the budgets were highly contained to the extent that instead of totaling 31.9 billion as originally projected over the entire NDP 10 period, the cumulative deficit was only 9.2 billion. Further, the adoption of the economic stimulus program in 2016-2017 aimed at boosting economic growth, promoting economic diversification, and creating jobs was an example of forward-looking and bold leadership by His Excellency the President. Efforts to diversify the economy have yielded positive results, to the extent that the share of the mining sector in the domestic output declined from 25% in 2008 to 20% in 2017. Growth of the non-mining sectors also reflects positive private sector response to macroeconomic policy decisions, such as the reduction in corporate tax rate in July 2011 from 25% to 22%. Over the same period, the minimum income tax threshold was increased from 24,000 pula per annum to 36,000 pula per annum, specifically to allow for an increase in personal disposable income, which is necessary to enhance wealth creation, savings, and participation in economic activities by our citizens. Continued supportive monetary policy also resulted in the country's average inflation rate declining from 12.6% in 2008 to reach a low of 3.3% in 2017. The rate of unemployment also declined from 26.2% in 2008 to 17.7% in 2016. Similarly, survey results published by Statistics Botswana in January 2018, last month, show that the proportion of people living below the poverty datum line has been declining over the years, from 19.3% in 2009-10 to 16.3% in 2015-16. In terms of abject poverty, that is people earning below $1.25 per day, the rate declined from 6.6% in 2009-10 to 3.3% in 2015-16. That is a 50% decline. In 2017, Botswana also managed to maintain an A investment grade rating by both Standard & Poor's and Moody's Investors Rating Agencies. These ratings, Madam Speaker, are necessary for attracting foreign direct investment, which is a prerequisite for economic growth and job creation in the economy. All these noteworthy achievements, Madam Speaker, are indicative of good foresight on the part of His Excellency the President, who saw the virtues of prudent economic management and maintaining a strong economy as part of good governance. Thank you. Madam Speaker, I will now review the global and domestic economic situation, which provides the context for the 2018-2019 budget proposals. Global performance and outlook. Madam Speaker, the global output is projected to increase from 3.2% in 2016 to reach 3.7% in 2017 and 3.9% in 2018, according to the International Monetary Fund's World Economic Outlook Report of January 2018. Similarly, growth in advanced countries is projected to increase from 1.7% in 2016 to 2.3% in 2017 and remain at 2.3% in 2018, supported by accommodative financial conditions, strong business and consumer confidence in this group of economies. Emerging markets and developing economies will grow at the rate of 4.4% in 2016 and 4.7% in 2017 and reach 4.9% in 2018. Sub-Saharan Africa economies will benefit from the recovery in the global economy, with growth forecast to increase from 1.4% in 2016 to 2.7% in 2017 and further to reach 3.3% in 2018. I now deal with regional performance and outlook. Madam Speaker, economic growth for the Southern Africa Development Community SADC is expected to reach 3.3% in 2017 against 2.6% recorded in 2016. The improved regional performance is a reflection of rising global economic activity, as indicated before. The downside risk to the expected improved economic growth of the region is that inflationary pressures increased from 10.3% in 2016 to 10.8% in 2017, against a regional target range of 3 to 7%, partly because of the stronger US dollar compared to weaker regional currencies. Now, domestic performance and outlook. Madam Speaker, as reported by His Excellency the President in the 2017 State of the Nation Address, the domestic economy registered a growth rate of 4.3% in 2016, after contracting by 1.7% in 2015. This was mainly due to the improved performance of the mining sector, as well as continued good performance of the non-mining sectors. The domestic economic outlook remains positive, I'm glad to say, with growth rates of 4.7% and 5.3% expected in 2017 and 2018 respectively. Monetary policy and inflation. Madam Speaker, domestic annual inflation rate has remained low during 2017, hovering around the lower end of the Bank of Botswana objective range of 3 to 6%. During 2017, inflation rate declined from 3.1% in January to 2.9% in November, before increasing to 3.2% in December, same year. In support of government efforts to promote growth through investment, Bank of Botswana maintained an accommodative monetary policy stand during 2017, cutting the bank rate by 50 basis points in October 2017, that is from 5.5% to 5%. Balance of payments and foreign exchange reserves. The overall balance of payments, Madam Speaker, is forecast to be a surplus of 297 million in 2017, based on November data, compared to a provisional surplus of 2.8 billion for 2016. Meanwhile, the level of foreign exchange reserves decreased by 4% from 76.8 billion in December 2016 to 73.7 billion in December 2017. At this level, Madam Speaker, the foreign exchange reserves were equivalent to 16.1 months of imports of goods and services. Measured in terms of the US dollars and the IMF Special Drawing Rights, SDR, the foreign exchange reserve stood at 7.5 billion US dollars, or SDR 5.3 billion in December 2017. exchange rate developments. Madam Speaker, exchange rate developments in the domestic economy continue to show stability, with real effective exchange rate registering a marginal appreciation of 0.1% over the 12 months to October 2017. In the 12 months to December 2017, the pula depreciated against the South African rand by 1.8%, while appreciating by 2% against the SDR. I now turn to performance of our state-owned enterprises. Madam Speaker, the state-owned enterprises exist to support the government's development efforts. Hence, their performance is critical in achieving government's broad development objectives of boosting economic growth, promoting economic diversification, and creating employment opportunities. In addition, government, like any other shareholder, expects a return on investment in some of these organizations. The performance of our state-owned enterprises was mixed, Madam Speaker, during 2016-17. Amongst those that registered positive performance during the year are Botswana Telecommunications Corporation Limited, Botswana Housing Corporation, Botswana Communications Regulatory Authority, and Botswana Savings Bank. State-owned enterprises that made losses during the period under review are Botswana Meat Commission, National Development Bank, Botswana Power Corporation, Water Utilities Corporation, and Air Botswana. Madam Speaker, there were varied reasons for unsatisfactory performance by some of the state-owned enterprises during the period under review. For BPC and WOC, for example, there is a misalignment between the levels of tariffs charged relative to the mandates of these institutions. To address this, the current water tariffs charged by WOC are gradually being aligned with the water treatment and distribution expenses. Similarly, government continues to review BPC tariffs with a view to maintaining a sustainable tariff structure that balances the need for cost recovery in the provision of power on the one hand and containing the cost of power on the other. Performance of state-owned enterprises were affected by continued difficult trading conditions within their respective sectors during the period under review. The National Development Bank, in particular, recorded a significant loss due to an increase in impairment of its old loan portfolio. The continued loss-making by some state-owned enterprises is a major concern to government, Madam Speaker. In an effort to address this, government will work closely with BEPA and Botswana Accountancy Oversight Authority to strengthen the performance monitoring mechanisms for state-owned enterprises, to ensure that they deliver on their mandates and that the country derives value for money from their existence. Madam Speaker, I now turn to another section of my speech that deals with the strategic thrust for 2018-2019 financial year. Strategic thrust. Madam Speaker, 2018-19 is the second financial year in the implementation of NDP 11. As such, the proposed policies and strategies for implementation during the year, as well as the corresponding resource allocations, continue to be aligned to the 6 national priorities as stated in NDP 11. The 2018-19 financial year focuses on broad strategic intervention areas of 1, promoting growth and economic diversification. 2, investing in human capital for building an inclusive society. And 3, maintaining a sustainable fiscal policy. Addressing these areas through the 2018 2019 government budget is expected to contribute to improved domestic environment for private sector investment, resulting in economic growth and the creation of employment opportunities. I now deal with promoting economic growth and diversification. Madam Speaker, in an effort to create a conducive environment for promoting growth and economic diversification, government will continue to focus on, among others, the ease of doing business and the development and maintenance of economic infrastructure. With regard to the ease of doing business, government has embarked on several policy and regulatory reforms aimed at improving doing business in this country. Among the major milestones achieved in 2017 was the adoption of the Regulatory Impact Assessment Strategy, whose aim is to improve the regulatory environment, reduce administrative burdens imposed by regulations, and build investor confidence in the legislation process. Additionally, policy reforms are currently underway in different areas of the economy, such as in procurement, land management, and public finance management, all aimed at improving environment for doing business in the country. This is in recognition of the fact that supportive policies and efficient regulations are prerequisite for investment, which is a necessary condition for economic growth and employment creation. Madam Speaker, the government recognized the critical need for the development and maintenance of economic infrastructure in promoting development in general and economic growth in particular. Hence, a significant amount of the 2018-19 budget is proposed for allocation to energy, water, roads, and information and communication technology infrastructure. In the area of energy, government will continue to invest in power generation, transmission, and distribution. In this regard, an amount of approximately 2 billion pula has been proposed for allocation to the energy sector. With regards to the development of water infrastructure, an amount of 2.53 billion pula has been proposed for water development programs and projects in the 2018-2019 budget. Allow me, Madam Speaker, at this stage to thank this House once again for approving the Emergency Water Security and Efficiency Project Loan Authorization Bill in March 2017 to raise 1.5 billion from the World Bank to finance the funding gap in the water sector. Madam Speaker, the development of the country's road network remains critical in the promotion of growth and economic diversification, particularly in accessing high potential production areas and markets. An amount of nearly 2 billion pula is proposed for improvement of the country's road network during 2018-2019. In addition, an amount of 1.5 billion from the Roads Levy Collections Fund will be spent on road maintenance. Madam Speaker, as Botswana moves to the next level of knowledge-based economy, investment in information and communications technology, ICT, becomes critical. In recognition of the importance of ICT in promoting growth and economic diversification, an amount of 461.35 million pula is proposed for allocation in the 2018-2019 budget to improve on the government ICT infrastructure, including expansion of the government data network and installing of ICT infrastructure in secondary schools. ICT infrastructure in secondary schools. Madam Speaker, while it is critical to invest in new infrastructure projects to create a conducive environment for growth and economic diversification, it is equally important to ensure that the existing infrastructure is maintained in good condition in order to derive maximum benefits. In this regard, an amount of 2.23 billion pula is proposed for allocation during 2018-19 to cover maintenance of government facilities throughout the country, including urgent repairs to schools and health facilities. I now turn to investing in human capital for building an inclusive society. Madam Speaker, government remains committed to building an inclusive society in recognition of the fact that this is necessary for peace and prosperity of the nation. This can be achieved through investment in human capital and empowerment of citizens by developing strategies and initiatives that provide them with opportunities to live dignified lives. And this is our objective. In view of the nexus between human capital development and employment, an amount of over 15 billion pula is proposed for education and training in the 2018-2019 budget. However, challenges related to the quality and relevance of education and training continue to affect the education sector. To address some of these challenges, government, through Botswana Qualification Authority, will be enforcing quality assurance measures as part of the strict implementation of its regulations in the education sector. Furthermore, the transformation of the Botswana College of Open and Distance Learning into Botswana Open University in 2017 has increased access to tertiary education and training, which enhances inclusivity in the society. Madam Speaker, another important component of building an inclusive society is investment in human health. Over the years, Madam Speaker, government of Botswana has invested substantial amounts of its annual budget on health, as it considered this to be a basic need. Accordingly, an amount of 8.2 billion pula is proposed for this sector in the 2018-2019 budget. In addition to education and health, another important component of government strategy for building an inclusive society is the provision of decent housing and shelter. Decent housing and shelter. Hence, the government will continue to implement housing programs suitable for different segments of our society. Among the ongoing programs are the SHA housing scheme, the destitute housing program, installment purchase scheme, BHC 10-key development scheme, to mention but a few. An amount of more than 250 million pula is proposed for allocation to SHA and destitute housing in the 2018-2019 budget. I wish to take this opportunity, Madam Speaker, to commend His Excellency the President for his unwavering campaign for building houses for the needy in our society through the Presidential Housing Appeal Initiative. Houses built under this initiative have augmented government efforts towards building an inclusive society. I now deal with maintaining a sustainable fiscal policy, which is critical. Madam Speaker, the country's medium-term budget outlook remained uncertain following the global financial crisis of 2008-2009. Which affected major markets for our exports, especially diamonds. Despite the recent signs of recovery in both the global and domestic economies, growth in government revenues continues to be slow compared to the pressure on expenditure arising from unlimited societal needs. This scenario calls for continued judicious management of our public resources in order to maintain fiscal sustainability as one of the objectives to achieve the goal of macroeconomic stability. critical to do so. To achieve the objective of fiscal sustainability in the medium to long term, government is committed to continue implementing measures aimed at improving its revenue and expenditure management. On the revenue side, efforts are underway to increase efficiency of collection from existing sources, as well as expanding the revenue base by identifying additional alternative sources. Government is committed to continue the prudent management of its expenditure to ensure value for money from limited financial resources. Thus, in the context of budget preparation and management, more emphasis will continue to be placed on areas such as expenditure targeting, prioritizing spending, aligning annual budget allocation to existing implementation capacity of executive ministries, departments, and agencies, assessing the readiness of projects for implementation as part of the budgeting to avoid over-provision under the development budget, and engaging the ministries and departments during implementation to ensure the quality of delivery of programs and projects. These measures are aimed at ensuring that the government achieve the fiscal rules as stated in NDP 11. Madam Speaker, I now turn to budget reviews and proposals, starting with 2016-17 budget out 10. Madam Speaker, the overall fiscal balance for 2016-17 financial year was a surplus of 1.12 billion, which was attributed to the improved performance of total revenues and grants, and on the other hand, slight underperformance of total expenditures. 2017-18 revised budget estimates. Madam Speaker, the revised total revenues and grants for 2017-18 are estimated at 57.19 billion. The revised total expenditure and net lending for 2017-18, on the other hand, stand at 59.61 billion, representing a small increase of 61.92 million pula from the original budget of 59.54 billion. As a result, the revised budget balance for the financial year 2017-2018 is a deficit of 2.42 billion, or 1.3% of GDP. Now, Madam Speaker, 2018-2019 budget proposals. Madam Speaker, I now present the budget proposals for the 2018-2019 financial year. I wish to preface my presentation by reiterating that despite the positive domestic economic outlook for the year, the fiscal situation remains uncertain, hence the need to exercise prudence in determining the level and type of expenditure planned for the next financial year. To this end, as stated earlier, efforts have been made to align the budget allocations for 2018-19 to the chosen strategic thrust for the year, which I mentioned earlier, thereby contributing to NDP 11 theme of inclusive growth for the realization of sustainable employment and poverty reduction. Total revenues and grants. Madam Speaker, total revenues and grants for 2018-19 are estimated at 64.28 billion. Mineral revenue is the largest contributor to revenues at 24.59 billion, or 38.3% of the total. Customs and excise revenue is the second largest contributor at 14.83 billion, or 23.1% of the total. The non-mineral income tax revenue is estimated at 13.36 billion, or 20.8% of total revenue. On the other hand, value-added tax is estimated at 8.11 billion pula, or 12.6% of total revenue. Total expenditure and net lending. Madam Speaker, total expenditure and net lending for 2018-2019 is estimated at 67.87 billion. Of this amount, 66.5% is earmarked for the ministerial recurrent budget, 28.4% for the development budget, while the remaining 5.1% is for statutory expenditure. I now deal with ministerial recurrent budget. Madam Speaker, the proposed ministerial recurrent budget amounts to 45.14 billion. Out of the proposed ministerial recurrent budget for 2018-19 financial year, 32.4 billion, or 71.8%, is allocated to 5 ministries, key ministries, of basic education, health and wellness, local government and rural development, defense, justice and security, and tertiary education, research, science and technology. The largest share, amounting to 7.97 billion, or 17.7% of the total ministerial recurrent budget, is proposed for allocation to the Ministry of Basic Education. The proposed provision caters for payment of utilities, books, equipment, maintenance of facilities, food supplies in secondary schools, as well as other education-related commitments, including, of course, teacher salaries and allowances. The second largest share of 7.54 billion, or 16.7%, is allocated to the Ministry of Health and Wellness. While a substantial portion is for personal emoluments, the allocation also caters for drugs, for medical specialist fees, ARV therapy, and government's contribution to Botswana Public Officers Medical Aid Scheme. An amount of 6.828 billion, being the third largest share of the ministerial recurrent budget, is proposed for allocation to the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. The allocation includes provision for revenue support grants to district and urban councils. It also includes the provision for maintenance of existing infrastructure, food supplies in primary schools, and social grants, mainly under the orphan care program and the old age pension scheme. This demonstrates government's continued commitment to social protection and development by providing services to the needy and the vulnerable in our society. Madam Speaker, the government remains steadfast in the provision of safety and security for Botswana as a country and for Botswana, its citizens. Therefore, the fourth largest share of 5.85 billion, or 13% of the ministerial recurrent budget, is proposed for allocation to the Ministry of Defense, Justice and Security. The proposed allocation will cover operational costs, mainly under the Botswana Defense Force, Botswana Police Service, Department of Prisons and Rehabilitation, and the new Office of the Receiver, as well as subvention to Legal Aid Botswana. The Ministry of Tertiary Education, Research, Science and Technology is allocated the fifth largest share of 4.75 billion, or 10% of the recurrent budget. This will mainly cater for tertiary student scholarships and subventions to University of Botswana and Botswana International University of Science and Technology. The sixth largest share of 1.9 billion is allocated to the Ministry of Transport and Communications. A major portion of this budget is earmarked for maintenance of roads, buildings, and plant and equipment, including ICT infrastructure. The proposed allocation is also to cater for subvention to Civil Aviation Authority of Botswana for the replacement and maintenance of strategic assets, and to Botswana Post for universal service obligations. Other ministries that are allocated significant amounts of ministerial recurrent budget are the Ministry of Presidential Affairs, Governance and Public Administration with 1.4 billion. Ministry of Agricultural Development and Food Security with 1.34 billion. Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry with 1.05 billion, among other things, to deal with the issues of the Silibepiko problem. And Ministry of Youth, Empowerment, Sport and Cultural Development allocated 1 billion to deal, among other things, with the problem of youth unemployment. The rest of the ministries and independent departments share the remaining portion of the ministerial recurrent budget, amounting to 4.98 billion or 13.3%. Statutory expenditure. Madam Speaker, the proposed budget for statutory expenditure for the financial year 2018-2019 is 9.08 billion. The proposed budget comprises public debt service requirement, pensions, gratuities and compensations, as well as salaries and allowances for specified officers. The growth is also due to the provision of 2 billion for repayment of government bond BW005, which matures in the next financial year. This latter allocation, Madam Speaker, I wish to indicate, underscores the reliability of Botswana government as a borrower. Yes. Not only externally, but also having borrowed from our own private sector. I now deal with the development budget, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the proposed development budget for 2018-19 financial year is 19.31 billion pula. Madam Speaker, a significant portion of the proposed development budget of 3.29 billion, or 17%, being the largest share, is proposed for the Ministry of Land Management, Water and Sanitation Services, to support the initiatives aimed at improving availability of water supply, as well as waste, water and sludge management. The water projects account for 2.51 billion of that amount, or 77% of the ministry's allocation. The main projects implemented are the North-South Carrier 2 from Palape to Mamashia and Gaborone at 647.29 million, which is meant to provide adequate water to the southern part of Botswana. And the Botswana Emergency Water Security and Efficiency Project, funded through the recently approved loan from the World Bank, which I indicated earlier. Water Utilities Corporation has been allocated an amount of 562 million to cover operational costs and restructuring of the corporation. The remaining 23% of the ministry budget goes towards land projects, particularly land servicing countrywide. Madam Speaker, the second largest share, at 2.78 billion or 14.4%, is allocated to the Ministry of Defense, Justice and Security. This allocation is mainly to cater for provision of infrastructure and procurement of air assets, vehicles, as well as defense and communication equipment for Botswana Defense Force, refurbishment of Botswana Police Service facilities, and construction of police stations at different areas of the country. And finally, refurbishment of facilities for Department of Prisons and Rehabilitation. The third largest share of 2.66 billion or 13.8% is proposed for the Ministry of Transport and Communications. A substantial provision is proposed for mega road and bridge projects, including the ongoing Kazungula and Mohembo bridges, construction of the 3 intersections along the KT Motsete Drive in Gaborone, Mogoditshane to Gabane and Mankodi Road, Gaborone to Boate Jualing, which is ongoing, Molamba Kwena to Tsesebe Road, and the Bete Mokani Machani Road. Madam Speaker, the fourth largest share is proposed for the Ministry of Mineral Resources, Green Technology and Energy Security at 2.52 billion. or 13.1%. Out of this amount, a total of 863.34 million, or 34% of the budget, is proposed for implementation of the Northwest Electricity Transmission Grid. The budget also caters for completion of Morupule A Power Station rehabilitation. In addition, Botswana Power Corporation has been allocated an amount of 1.1 billion pula to cover its operational expenses and also to meet the debt service obligation for the Morupule B Power Station project. An amount of 2.25 billion, or 11.7%, which is the fifth largest share, is recommended for the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development in order to continue implementation of the Social Protection Program and village infrastructure projects. The primary school backlog eradication program, including maintenance, accounts for 634.27 million, or 28.2% of the ministry's allocation. The budget also caters for Ipelehem program at 635 million, and the community development program, which is very popular, which has a budgetary provision of another 570 million, or 25.3% of the ministry's development budget. Madam Speaker, the rest of the ministries and independent departments take the balance of the proposed development budget at 5.80 billion, or 30.1%. This brings me, therefore, to the overall budget balance for 2018-2019. Madam Speaker, given the estimated total revenues and grants of 64.28 billion and proposed total expenditure and net lending of 67.87 billion, the net result is a budget deficit of 3.59 billion, or 1.8% of GDP for the financial year 2018-2019. Despite this budget deficit, government will continue to manage expenditure so that the country returns to a sustainable fiscal position in the medium to long term. To finance the expected budget deficits, government will be guided by the mid-term debt management strategy of 2017 to 2020, which provides options on the financing of a budget deficit depending on the underlying causes of such a deficit. In our assessment of the causes of the deficit budget for budget deficit, I'm afraid, for 2018-19, we find the deficit to be temporary. Hence, government will finance it through a combination of drawing down on existing loans as well as on government cash balances. Madam Speaker, fiscal legislation. Madam Speaker, as indicated in the 2017 budget speech, my ministry continues to work on the simplification of the country's tax administration by developing a Tax Administration Act to improve on the efficiency of tax collection, tax revenue collection. Drafting of this legislation is expected to be completed during the next financial year. Meanwhile, my ministry is also working on the review of the Income Tax Act to introduce, among others, transfer pricing rules. Madam Speaker, in an effort to comply with international standards, government is undertaking a review of the Botswana International Financial Services Center tax regime in order to remove any perception that Botswana is a tax haven. Our intention, Madam Speaker, is to have all the proposed amendments to this legislation approved by Parliament during the course of 2018. Conclusion. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, yes, I wish to reiterate that despite the positive domestic economic outlook, the country's fiscal position remains tight. This calls for continued efforts to mobilize domestic revenues and judicious management of our expenditure in order to achieve the objective of fiscal sustainability. Failure to improve on collections of existing revenues coupled with continued pressure on expenditure may result in my ministry resorting to other options in order to avoid the country running on budget deficits for extended period, which is not sustainable. In this regard, I would like once again to appeal to all those responsible for public finance, whether as revenue collecting agencies or spending ministries, departments, and agencies, to exercise utmost due care in line with the requirements of the country's financial legislation and the Constitution of the Republic. Madam Speaker, I wish to take this opportunity once again to express my sincere thanks to His Excellency, the President, Lieutenant General Dr. Seretse Khamaye Nkham, for the support accorded to my ministry in general and to me personally. I was fortunate to have a supportive head of state who understood that prudent economic management was part of good governance. This must be emphasized. Without his support, some of the achievements in the area of economic development that I enumerated at the beginning of my speech would not have been possible. We have no doubt, Madam Speaker, that his successor, His Honor the Vice President, will continue to support our ministry in the delivery of his mandate, especially the need to ensure fiscal sustainability as the basis for good governance in general and macroeconomic stability in particular. Madam Speaker, as I end my address, I would like, as usual, to extend I would like, as usual, to extend our thanks to our development partners, both bilateral and multilateral, who continue to support us in the development of this country. We remain indebted to their support to our development endeavors. Madam Speaker, I now move that the Appropriation 2018-2019 Bill 2018, number 1 of 2018, be read for the second time. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Well done.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Order. Order. Honourable members, the question is that the Appropriation 2018-2019, Bill 2018, Bill number 1 of 2018, be read a second time. In terms of Standing Order 86.2, which reads, after the motion for the second reading of the appropriation bill has been proposed, the debate thereon shall not commence until one clear day has elapsed, and thereafter not more than 10 further days shall be allotted for the second reading of the bill. Order. Therefore, the debate on the second reading will commence on Wednesday, the 7th of February, 2018. I have obtained copies of the budget speech for immediate distribution to all honorable members and to our invited guests as they leave the chamber. They will each get a copy. Furthermore, honorable members and all our invited guests are invited for refreshments in the Parliament Gardens. Metsinyana ate. Order. Order. As that concludes the business of today's order paper, I shall now call upon the Honorable Leader of the House to move a motion of adjournment. Honorable Leader of the House.
Point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this House do now adjourn.
Order. Order. Honorable members, the question is that this House do now adjourn. Order. You are making noise. Order. The question is that this House do now adjourn. The question is that this House do now adjourn. As many as of that opinion say aye. On the contrary, say no. You will remain here while we go out. The ayes have it, the ayes have it.
e le gone jaaka e tsamaile kgaoganyo ya madi a setšhaba rona re le ba Botswana television re ka kwano ka ko dikagong tsa palamente ko e leng gore tona re Mathambo o sa tsa go wetsa go kgaogana madi a setšhaba jaaka setšhaba ka kakaretso se sologetswe megala se se nkgatileng wena ga itsera ke ka ha a simolotseng ka teng a kgola tautona re kgama mo go tsotlhe tsa dirileng ka nako ha le tautona o ka itse gore kgaoganyo e ya madi a setšhaba ya ngwaga wa 2018-2019 e ne le yone ya bogelo re le ka hata se ga tautona tota puso ya ga tautona kgama me e le gone hela jaaka e ne tsamaya ka teng go dira tse tota o buile dilo tse dintsi tse e leng gore di ne di kgatlhisa wena ga itsene ke tse e leng gore o na supa gore tautona kgama o nyele sabe mo go tsoseng itsholelo jaaka o gakologelwa gore ka ngwaga wa 2008-2009 re na le mathata a itsholelo mme tautona kgama o ne a eteletse pele ka botswerere go netehatsa gore lehatshe la Botswana le kgona go itsetsepela ka nako yone eo ma ha ne re le mo mathateng a go nna jalo o tshwaetse dingwe mananeo a e leng gore a simolisiwa ke ene tautona kgama a tshwana le lenaneo la economic stimulus program le e leng gore lone o ne a le iteela diata thata e le maiteko a na irwa ke tautona a go leka go tswakanya itsholelo le go e tlhabolola ga itsela
ke tsa gore se tso tlhalose o se gore se motse go diragala mo phakeleng ga gompieno la medio se tletse ke neng ke ntse ke di lemoga gone ga go buiwa go ne go tlhalosa ga jalo gore yone budget speech yone e tla be itebagantse le dilo tse di tshwanang le bo inclusive society ke utlwe lefoko le le gatalo thata ke tsira le utlwe o se go ngwa re hetang teng ntse go bua gore tshotso re ne setšhaba se e leng gore re akanya ba bangwe re rotloetsa gore mongwe le mongwe a kgone go tsena le mo itshololong re rotloetsa le gore mongwe le mongwe a kgone gore be le gore ra mmona jalo a e le gore ke motho e le gore o tlhabologile re tlhabolola motho hela ka ntse o ntse o bua o se ke ngwe tse le gore tautona re tla mo gakologela ka tsone dilo tsa bo dignity yana go agala gore re thusalo ba e leng gore tata ba tlhokile lesego le mo siameng ke dilo tse ntse re heta ka tsone mo kgaoganyong ya madi a setšhaba
o ka itse gore mo kgaoganong e ya madi a setšhaba e ne e le ya bobedi jaaka puso e tsweletse ka go leka maiteko a go tsweledisa lenaneo la ditlhabololo la bo 11 ke gore ke NDP 11 mme gape o ka itse gore re ntse re mo maitekong ma tebelopele ya setšhaba ya vision 2036 le one re setse morago mme ntlha yone o e bua eo ke tsaya gore e tsewa thata mo go tota dikaedi tsa dilo tse pedi se se tswang ke go di bua tse gore le tsone di itebagantse le go tlhabolola Batswana go tlhama mebereko ya senela ruri ga mmogo le go alola gotelele mma le huma la ntato mo lehatsheng la Botswana
ke tsa gore ntse o di tlhalose o se menengwe tse e leng gore ne ntse re di nopole gone mo yone budget speech ne ga bua ka the state owned entities tse e leng gore di tshwana le bo BTC BHC Bokra jalo bo BMC bo NDB go ne go tlhalosa gore tota o tlhalosa it's mixed reactions o na tlhalosa gore ka tse dingwe di kgone go dira sentle tse dingwe ga di a kgona go dira sentle re bona go tse go dira sentle ke BTC BHC Bokra le BSB mme tse di se dirang sentle osi ke BMC NDB BPC water utilities le air Botswana ra itse re kgantsa metsi kgantsa go tlhoka motlakase dilo tse ntse re ntse di tlhaloswa mo ngwageng mo hitileng go la 2017
go ntse hela jalo ga itsela ke mme o na tshwaela gape gore puso e tsile go ema ka dinao go leka go netehatsa gone gore makalana otlhe a puso a ileng gore a ikemetse ka nosi e tlebe e eme ka ga morago gone go netehatsa gone gore otlhe a bona dipoelo tse di rileng e le jaaka e le maiteko a lehatshe a go leka go dira gore re nne le itshulelo e itsetsepetseng le go nonotsha itshulelo ga re ementeng mo nakong ya gompieno
ba ntse ba tsweletse jalo motswaneso ba tswa gone ka ga palamente ya ka ntse re tlhalosa re goneha for the 2018-2019 budget speech ke tsa gore tla nne ntse re nopola bangwe re ntle re tlo gore bone go tsamaile jang disolofelo e ne e le eng
o ka itse gape
o ka tswelela
mme o ntse o montegela ke a go bolelela ga gona le ga e le makgwere ape
pitsa medi ya ntlola re tlhalosa gone gore re ntse re tswelela re tsaya baeng ka gone re tle ntlo gore go tsamaile yang ntlo gore motswana ene ke se ne a se solofetse gone ka kwano mo parlamenteng
go ntse jalo mme sengwe se ke ratang gore ke se tshwaele ke madi a e leng gore a segetse thoko gore ke madi a beetsweng ditlhabololo mo lefatshe la Botswana jaaka re le ka go tswelela re nna lefatshe le nong re ikapesa re nna le seriti le rona mo lefatsheng la rona re bua ka dikago ditsela dilo tse di ntseng jalo jalo mme madi ao a e leng gore a beetswe ditlhabololo motswana betso ke ka ngwaga wa 2018-2019 ke 19.3 billion pula
yala ka o se buile osi o tla gakolola gore mo ga e fetileng wa maphata a nagilwe madi a matona and the largest share yala ka di-minister a nantse a bua ne le minister of basic education mo ngwageng o ke tsa gore ntse ke yone gape
go ntse jalo ga o ka lebelela gape ntlha engwe ke e ratileng ke ka toga thata ya basic education ke gone gore o na bua ka dibalamakgolo mo dikolong le gone di ne tsa lathelelwa sengwenyana gore jaanong seo se ta rutuntsha ebile se rotloetsa thuto tota go tswa ko moding ebile o e nosetsa ga e le ko yana e tswa e le ya motia seo se raya gore setšhaba sa Botswana jaaka ne re bua ka NDP 11 gore itebagantse le gone go tlhama mebereko ya sennela ruri e tare bana ba ga ba tswa kwa ba ntse ba thuthuga ba ta kgona go itlhela seemo se e leng gore se re itebetse sa itsholelo mmaetsho ebile go na le
ke bone ka re ba re bitse gore tle re bitse bangwe ba tle ba tlhalosa gore go tsamaile jang maketle go sutele osi
go ntse jalo kgaitsedi ke amogela ga moeng wa rona wa ntlha wa thulaganyo ya tsatsi la gompieno go tsweng ka ko SIDA le mokamedi wa SIDA ke bua jalo ka raitsho re Thabo Thamani mongamedi dumela
se
le e tsamaile yang kgaoganyo ya madi a setšhaba ke utlwile ga le tona ona nankola maphata one a puso a e leng gore gore go na le a e leng gore na a dira sentle le a sa direng sentle wena sentle o ka re ke eng seo sa kotseng ka pego e ya madi a setšhaba
na magidumedise Batswana ko ba leng teng se ke sa kotseng ka pego ya madi a setšhaba e ne le dintlha tse ne tona a diri ba gapele tsa gore go leka go diversify economy go nne le maduo a rileng mo dingwageng tse ntseng di hetatse mme selo se se supa maiteko a maphata a tshwanang le bosida go leka go atolotsa economy go tswa mo ditswammung kana ditemane mme se sengwe gape se se botlhokwa se ke se boneng se ne tona a se bua e ne e le ka ga reng tota lekalana la power or energy le la metsi water utilities le la ICT ke makalana a tla neelwang madi gore ba tokagatse diemo tsa bone selo se nkgotsogatsa ka gore kana tota is an enabler se dira gore dikgwebo di atlege mme gape sa bogelo se ke se utlwileng gape se tonane se nthokotsa mathe mme ebile tota ke itumela e ne e le gore thuto e tla tsa madi a rileng a magolwane so se se botlhokwa ka gore tota entrepreneurship e tshwanetse gore e simolole ko primary e se ka re motho hela sa godile e be e le gore a rotsana mo entrepreneurshipeng mme ke dumela gore tota the how part is important mme re tle be re ntse re lebile go thusa puso on the how part
tona o buile gape ka sengwe se e leng gore o ne a bua ka go tlhofofala ga go dira kgwebo mo lefatsheng la Botswana ga o lebile o le mokamedi wa lekala la tshwana le bosida seo sa go le thusa jang mo go tsamaiseng tirelo tsa rona tsa tsatsi le letsatsi
right so kganye ya the ease of doing business tona e rile a bua ka ona se se botlhokwa ke gore le rona re le ba lephata la Ministry of Investment Trading Industry re ne ra kopana maloba ga le ra go tsheka go bona gore mme gone tota la dilabe e ka nna eng mo the ease of doing business selo se sa gore thusa rona re le SIDA ka gore ga batho ba tla ko go rona ba tshwanetse gore ba bakantse sengwe le sengwe ene so se sengwe mo lampelo ke gore re tla re diega ka gore ba ne ba sena di-permit tsele mme ke dumela gore go mo ga gore ditlhwatlhwa ntse di a oketsega mme ga go ka tokagala mme le the potential and possibility of business to succeed will be enhanced
re Thamani ke a go leboga ebile ke leletsa le masego otlhe le matlhogonolo mo ngwageng o mošwa wa madi
thank you very much
ke ne ke go tsetse jalo mookamedi wa lekalana la Cedar Rights re Thabo Thamani mme hela se ileng gore se teng gone ha ke bona kgaitsedi ke lene o eme sente le mookamedi wa BDC go tla go tlhalosetsa gore bone e tsamaile jang ka kontleng ya bone kgaitsedi ke
ke a leboga osi re ntse re gone ha motswanetse re mo dikagong tsa palamente re tla nna ntse re ba nopola le bone re tla utlwa gore ba ikutlwetseng ke sengwe se se diragala gone ka ko palamente kwa mo nakong ya gompieno ke amogela lo Raiso Bashi Gaetsalwe ene le the managing director ya BDC. Raiso dumela.
Thank you, ma. Nice to see you.
Ra leboga Raiso wona Raiso se se re utlwa lone pego ka madi a setšhaba dikakanyo tsa go keng ha se re bua lone lephata la go la BDC.
Maitso ke itumetsela thata. I'll be very honest. I think this was one of the best budget speeches that I've had in a very long time. Specifically for the reason that I think for the first time, not for the first time, but this time around, government has completely got it right. The ability to translate our vision into a national development plan and into an annual budget. And I think that's the way things should be done. So I think the budget speaks very clearly to the priorities of the NDP, which are the same pillars of the vision. So I'm very, very happy with the way that this budget has turned out.
And for BDC, what do we expect?
Well, BDC, we've been a very profitable organization for the last 3 years. We continue to be profitable. We continue to give a dividend back to the shareholder. We're very excited about that. But we're also very excited about some of our projects that are coming up. And as you know, we've been investing heavily in the manufacturing sector. We've been investing very heavily in the agricultural sector. In terms of manufacturing, we've got a plant in Lobatse, which is a new plant. It's been operating for the last 18 months. And right now we're employing close to 800 people that are manufacturing electric harnesses for vehicles that are all for export. In terms of the agricultural sector, we finally turned around our farm in Talana. We have a new tenant there. He's farming very successfully. He's using a lot of modern farming techniques. He's getting produce to the market, and we're very excited about that. And we'll also be shortly launching our new project to produce milk in this country. The project is expected to produce in the first phase 80% of domestic demand for milk. We're very excited about that.
So finally we'll be making milk here in Botswana.
We'll be making milk here in Botswana. That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for your time.
You don't want to ask me more about the budget? I've got so much to
Okay.
say. Right? Let me tell you two more points I'm excited about. I think I'm very excited that the budget is translated to all the priority areas.
Okay.
So health, education, which is human development, is getting a large proportion of the budget. I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited about the spend into infrastructure, water, power, roads. What I'm particularly excited about is the maintenance budget. I think for a long time in Botswana, we've been very good at building things, not good at looking after them. I think this time around there's a substantial budget for maintenance, which makes me very, very excited. So I'm very, very pleased about that.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Ke tsa gore motswanetse la ka ntsutle ne rena le ene MD wa BDC a tlhalosa gore ene o itumeletse the budget speech ya ka ntse re utlwa gona gore ka bontsi di tla diriwa di ka bontsi tla bona mo ngwageng wa 2018-2019 di diragala hela ka ntse re tlhalosa ne rena le moeng gone fa o se
ha o lebile jaka ha re simolola ga itsela ke o no bua gore wena o sologetseng
so you know I'm disappointed like the rest of the other public servants me la ka re itse go tlhaloswa jalo gore madi a setšhaba re bona re a dirisa sentle go gona ka rutwa gore we must budget o se
tota me ke tsa gore bopeletole le ke se re se tlhokang kana re aga le hatse re le mo gore le Batswana ga re tshwaragane dikgwetlho tsona di ke di tlhokagala mo ditirong me go re tshwaragane re le Batswana mmaetso mo nakong e tang me ke tsa gore go tswe mo go rona rotlhe le go la Botswana television le leng gore re tla le gone ka go di ka go ntsa parlamente re itumetse thata gore bono le rona mo tsatsing la gompieno e bile tle re lebogela gore o bono le teng le rona go simolla hela ka nako yone e ne re simolla ka yone go tla go mo nakong ya gompieno nna ke la hela ke rialo ke re ka dinako tsotlhe le ha go ka nna thata jang re fa ka we
le nna motsanetse o make gore ke re bala ka go tota re bala ka go BTV studios re tsaya lo re ra moraka ka baeng ba tla bana le bona ka go tleng re tswella jalo re harantlola yone budget speech re bona gore gone mme ona le Motswana no solofetseng mara tle re boele gona ka go BTV studios tle re ba utlwa ka go ra le